Did you know that St. Luke's University Health Network, based in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, has been recognized by the U.S. government as the highest performing health system in the United States for quality? You heard right. St. Luke's #1 recognition affirms our status as the top leader among the most respected healthcare providers in the nation, including Houston Methodist and the Mayo Clinic. To state it simply, if you want to receive the best care when you go to a hospital, come to St. Luke's.
In the squadron, they called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I don't really want to run. I'd rather keep doing this. But as I see my country fall apart and President Trump is, it's too bad, actually. We only have 2 terms, and that's it. That's it. Although there is some wiggle room, according to the Constitution. There's debate about, is it 2 consecutive terms? Is it, like, you're limited to 2 consecutive terms, right? So, but President Trump hasn't had 2 consecutive. They're non-consecutive. So he could be entitled to another term. Yes. The whole damn thing is kind of ludicrous. Why is it that members of Congress can stay there for 50 years, right? Members of the House, members of the Senate, 2-year terms for the House, 6 years for the Senate. And presidents are limited to 2 4-year terms. Why the hell is that? That doesn't seem right or fair or constitutional, and it's kind of artificial. It's not what our founding fathers had in mind. They came up with that in the 1950s, late 40s possibly, because they didn't want another FDR. FDR stuck around for 12 years. He had been elected to a 4th term. FDR, how about that, huh? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He used to live right up the street, East 65th Street. I go by that place all the time. And I saw a picture of him actually on crutches. Don't have many pictures of that. I just don't see why the president is term limited. Why? Why can John Murtha stay in the House? Why can Nancy Pelosi stay there for 5 decades? Why can Joe Biden stay there for 6 decades? Why is that? Why not the president of the United States? What about these bureaucrats who stay and you never hear about them? They stay. The FBI director technically has a longer term, a 10-year term. Why is that? It makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. It's wrong. So President Trump will be off the public stage at some point. And I'm not saying I could replace him. No, ever, but I could be an important and vital national voice, and one that has power, like to do things, to get things done, or to block things from being done, right? You need some of that too. One senator can't do it all, but I know this: Chuck Schumer and Gillibrand, in this moment of crisis, are nowhere to be seen as Jews in America are under assault. And I wouldn't hide. I don't want to do it for a lot of different reasons. I don't think it would be ideal for my family. Financially, I don't know what they make, but you know what? I don't think I could continue doing the radio. I don't think they would allow me to do my, other projects, television, whatnot. I couldn't do those things. And I love doing those things. But I also love my country. And oh, by the way, it would be a little bit of a wow, it would be a kind of a cool thing. It would be a cool thing. Part of it. It would be an achievement. It would be like, wow, look at me. I'm a United States Senator. I'm not going to say there's not a little bit of that, but I'm a United States Senator who obviously works for the people. I know that title is just a title. It comes and goes. It doesn't mean it's me. I would also talk and do things to promote sobriety in America, to promote God and Christianity and Judaism in America. I would speak openly about my faith. I could not pass up that opportunity. And I might be a voice that would prevent the next war or justify the next war. Depends on the war. Certain matters of war and peace. The thing that would kind of fascinate me also when I think about it, in my lifetime, we haven't had too many senators from New York in that one seat. In my lifetime, we have had three. Jacob Javits, Al D'Amato, and Chuck Schumer. Imagine that if I'm the fourth. Imagine that. Wouldn't that be kind of wild? Now, it doesn't come with any perks, really. Everybody's watching you like a hawk. You know, you can't, you know, you got a big target on your back. You're automatically investigated federally. Believe me, there's some embarrassing stuff that I've done in my past, stuff you know about, some stuff you don't know about. That would all come out, right? But I got a pretty thick skin right now. You know, so what? What are you going to do? Yeah. I was accused of that. Yep. I was. Yeah. Yeah, that too. What difference does that make? What does that have to do with telling off the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff when he has to be told off or put in his place, or protecting him when that needs to be done? I'm not going to just lick my thumb and stick up and see which way the wind is blowing. What's fashionable? I don't know. It's something to think about. Something to look at. Gillibrand, I believe, is up in when? When the hell is... she got reelected. Remember when she ran for president? I should run against her just for that. How dare you? How dare you waste your time like that on our time? And also, it's a frustrating job. You don't have like this army of people working for you. You have some, and you have the power of your influence, really. And arguably, look, there are people who are in social media with huge followings. They say Joe Rogan is like one of the most influential people in America, that he's more powerful than United States senators, 10 of them put together. You could argue that I should continue in the media space and accruing more and more audience and such. Maybe. All right. I'm done daydreaming. 800-848-9222. 800-848-9222. Yeah. Actually, I want to talk about... Oh! No, we're not going to do that. If you haven't heard, here's President Trump in China. Real quick, let's go through it. Cut 14, please.
From the beginning, our citizens have shared a deep sense of mutual respect. Founding Father Benjamin Franklin published the sayings of Confucius in his colonial newspaper, and today's sculpture, recognizing that ancient Chinese sage, is carved into the face of the United States Supreme Court very proudly.
Okay, that's nice. That's nice. He can't say that much in public. It's very kind of, you know, you got to keep it general. It's very diplomatic, I should say. Stop everything. We're about to get briefed on the Iran war by somebody we don't see all that often. It's very interesting. His name is Admiral Cooper. He should be household name famous right now, but he's not. He is the commanding general of CENTCOM, Central Command. That is the military component organization responsible for the Middle East. Central Command. Tommy Franks was the general who led Central Command. Norman Schwarzkopf was the general who led Central Command during Gulf War I. I mean, these guys usually kick ass. Admiral Cooper, I don't know, you see him like these weird videos he puts out every 6 weeks, it seems, in some dark room somewhere. He's been, after I started giving a hard time, he's been a little bit more available. And to be honest, when you are that much, like if you're that elusive, I start to wonder if I'm getting the whole story. Very much so. But here he is before the House, Senate Armed Services Committee, House, Senate, one of those committees. Go ahead, please. Admiral Cooper is his name.
Iran's ballistic missile program. To what extent you can tell us in this open setting?
Yes, sir, Senator. Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. Our military mission in Operation Epic Fury was crystal clear from the very outset and remained steady throughout. The mission was to degrade Iran's ability to project power on its neighbors and U.S. interests. It had three key components: degrade Iran's ballistic missiles and the defense industrial base that supports it, degrade Iran's drones and the defense industrial base that supports that, and degrade their Navy and the defense industrial base that supports that. In each of those categories, we met all of the achievements. Each of those systems were significantly degraded. If I gave you just a couple of examples, the defense industrial base for their drones and their missiles and their Navy were degraded by 90%. They have about 10% left. For the Navy, my military assessment would be that the Navy will not begin to rebuild for 5 to 10 years. Many of you are serve in states that build ships. It's complex. It's particularly complex when you don't have an industrial base to build it. My professional perspective on this also is that Iran would not return to the same level of Navy that it had for a generation.
Now, this 10% of drones left, are they exquisite or the sort of relatively inexpensive drones we've been hearing about?
Senator, thank you for this question. I think I'd like to use the opportunity to myth bust on drones.
Okay.
The days of $35,000 drones that we saw in the last couple of years, particularly in the fight against the Houthis in Yemen, those days are behind us. Today, we face an increased threat from drones that are highly sophisticated. They're jet-powered. They have high-end sensors. They have electronic warfare. They have signals intelligence. So those days of using high-value defenses to shoot down cheap targets are behind us. Quite the contrary, what we have been doing lately is using our own low-cost one-way attack drones, attacking Iran, making them use higher-end, more expensive weapons.
All right, hold on a second. This guy strikes me as an apple polisher and a bit of an ass kisser. And I don't know. His tone is a little bit too formal, a little bit too quick, a little bit too... I've been hearing these figures for a long time. You know what I want? You know what the word is? Granular. I want a little bit more granular, right? It's a very talking, pointy kind of a thing. I'm not really doubting that we didn't kick ass over there. I think we kicked ass. But there's almost a defensiveness to it, right? A preemptive defensiveness. There's something going on with this guy. Keep going.
Confidently tell you, we have flipped the cost curve in many ways. Always work to be done, but I like where we are in this regard.
Stop.
Okay.
I don't like that. I just don't like that. Always work to be done, but I like where we are in this regard. Cost curve. And we're on the other, and sir, we're on the other side of that cost curve, and I like it's a little bit military double talky. It's a little bit evasive. And not for nothing, those ribbons go on forever. I guarantee you, one of those ribbons is a marksmanship ribbon. What? They get ribbons for marksmanship. We don't really do that in the Marine Corps. Then again, we get badges, but we don't wear them on. Well, we do actually. I don't know. It's a little bit much. Some units have gotten a little bit crazy when it comes time to give out the ribbons and the medals. All right, and there are phases where the military becomes like very stingy about medals and then overly generous about medals. I have never seen anything like this. I've seen Mexican generals like this. I've seen Soviet generals like this. It goes down. The ribbons go down to his belly button, for crying out loud. Keep going.
There's been a lot of talk about part of the negotiations being giving up the nuclear ambitions. But almost as important to me is the support of terrorist proxies. So has Iran ever been willing into support for the terrorist proxies, Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah?
They have not, Senator.
So to what extent has this exercise, this operation, denied Iran resources for funding terrorism?
Senator, this has been a significant priority from the outset, and as we sit here today, there are no resources and equipment that are flowing from Iran to Hamas, Hezbollah, or the Houthis.
You know what he sounds like? I'm sorry. Like, this is I don't know if that's legit anymore. In part because for years I saw this is the thing. It's really not on him, but it's a little on him. I saw generals lying about Afghanistan and Iraq for years. Always saying we were doing great. Always saying things were going well. Right up until the moment we lost. Now here's Gillibrand, who I despise, by the way. We got the Gillibrand, right? And she tries to lay into him, but she's just a hysterical woman. Right? She's just hysterical. But I'm curious how he reacts to a hysterical woman. Go ahead.
The second concern I have, Admiral Cooper, is how we've prosecuted this war to date. We have data and information publicly available in publications like the New York Times that 22 schools have been hit, hospitals, dozens of hospitals have been hit. We have regulations. We have the law of war. We have human rights obligations. We have our own targeting requirements to avoid civilian harm and death. Have you been implementing all the laws that are required under current law to minimize civilian death?
Senator, we have executed every operation consistent with the law of armed conflict. The subject of civilian casualties is a particular passion of mine. We pay attention to it. We follow all the procedures and have gone above and beyond to, in my case, personally warn the Iranian people of several instances during conflict where they were being potentially used as human targets. If they've been warned,
how did we then bomb 22 schools?
There's no indication that we have that has been corroborated.
How many schools have we bombed?
There is one.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hello, he's one of the smartest guys I have ever met in my life. I'm talking like, 1, 2, 3. He's right up there. I can't think of anybody smarter, actually, literally. Blaine Holt, retired general from the United States Air Force, master strategist, hugely successful businessman, future anything's possible. This is the man who told me exactly when, to the hour, essentially, the war in Iran would start. And he said it way, way, way in advance. And he's back with us now. Blaine Holt, General, all sincere. I really mean all of those things. It's really incredible, your mind and how you operate. I'm so glad you're on our side. How are you?
I'm humbled and grateful for your friendship and the chance to be on. Thank you very much, my friend. I'm doing great.
All right, wonderful. So look, number one, I want to get your take on what the hell happened last night. There was a report that, and it came from Anna Paulina Luna, who's no slouch in Congress, that the CIA went into Tulsi Gabbard's office at the DNI, which is a different agency, is the umbrella organization, and took documents that were going to be declassified. People are walking that story back, but for a while last night, it seemed like there was almost a civil war between the CIA and the DNI. What is your take on all of that, to the extent you can share?
I'm reminded by the scene in Ron Burgundy where he goes, well, that escalated really quickly. We have a situation that I think is needing much more scrutiny, careful examination, and it's too late to put spackle over this and walk it back. What you have is a subordinate organization in the Central Intelligence Agency that went to its superior organization that was complying with an executive order of the president to declassify materials. They went in and they took these things, and they did it some time ago, and they did this usurping the president's executive order and his intent at a time when he's out of the country. Well, it was reported by Anna Paulina Luna. Great. They argued all night long over whether the word raid was made or seized was made. It doesn't matter. The fact stands on its own. And if we think there's nothing there, well, then let's go ask Representative Comer why late last night he sent a memo over to Director Radcliffe to tell him, impound the evidence, preserve it all, don't let any of it go. And then magically the press conference that Anna Paulina Luna was going to call was canceled. So when something super hyper embarrassing like this happens by folks who are allegedly on the same team, this is an embarrassment and it requires more questions. And we want to know why that material can't be put out in front of all of us.
Very interesting. Very interesting indeed. All right, we're going to see where the chips fall on that one. Hey, one thing, if Anna Paulina botched this up a little bit, and I'm not saying she did or didn't or whatever, you got to remember this about our side. Sometimes the dominant media really does the work of Democrats, very, very much so. They're in cahoots. And we don't have anything like that on our side. Conservative media, portions of it, not us, but portions of it, way too reactive, way too discontent with what the dominant media is doing, complaining about them, and not doing any significant legwork that might help those in power, that might reveal truth. They're just too many people just complaining about things. Does that make sense? I'm kind of like, I'm angry at Anna Paulina.
Right.
Yeah?
I think you've got it right. There's a circular firing squad on the right side. There really is. Because what will happen is they try to keep everybody in synchronization with this thing, in air quotes, we'll call the narrative. And what I believe is, in Anna Paulina Luna, we have a very honest congresswoman. She came across some information, and she didn't feel the need to vet this through leadership or congressional leadership. She just went live with it and went, the American people need to know this. This is what we hope of our representatives. But all too often, they stay on the reservation, they stay on the plantation, they wait for the speaker's phone to ring and find out what they're allowed to say, do, or act on things. And that's not what we want at all. We don't want a uniparty, and we certainly don't want a monolithic party that I can't trust Anna Paulina Luna anymore because she's just saying what she's told to say. So I think she's done a great job. This needs to be out there in the public eye. And what we want to know is what is in those boxes that's so embarrassing that the CIA would brazenly go pull those things back at a time when our president is mounting a trip overseas.
Very interesting indeed. I love your perspective, and I get it. All right, so I want your take on this. The New York Times put out a story earlier this week that, we barely made a dent in Iran's nuclear missile and all that stuff. And basically, the military mission that we waged was a bust. I don't believe that's true, but I do believe that the intelligence community, components of it, would leak such a story to the New York Times. What happened? What's really going on here?
They absolutely leaked that to the New York Times. They said it in their own words. Go back to what Brennan said on MS Now not 3 days ago when he said, we have legions of intelligence operatives inside the intelligence community that are ready to take President Trump to task. That's actually quite a seditious statement, but look no further than Alyssa Slotkin, that other seditious person who is out there saying largely the same things with no basis in fact. In fact, I find it as a military person really insulting that you might besmirch the progress and what our military has achieved without 130,000 troops and a blank check on the ground. It's nothing shy of amazing. Need I remind everybody that we're only 2.5, 3 months into this thing, and the end is in sight. So yes, they're going to throw every rock at President Trump they possibly can, and they really just don't care what it looks like.
Did you see Admiral Cooper today?
I did.
Let me play a little bit of that Admiral Cooper, if you can, just about 20 seconds or so. Admiral Cooper speaking at the joint, not to Kirsten Gillibrand, but to the other guy. All right? Yeah, go ahead.
In some detail, to what extent Operation Epic Fury has set back Iran's ballistic missile program. To what extent you can tell us in this open setting.
Yes, sir, Senator. Thank you very much for that question. Our military mission in Operation Epic Fury was crystal clear from the very outset and remained steady throughout. The mission was to degrade Iran's ability.
All right, that's fine. That's fine. Look, I found him a little bit too talky pointy, and there was something. I don't mean to quibble here, and I guess I am quibbling, but there was something about him not ready for prime time. Am I being too much of a jerk?
Well, let's give him a little tether. Because, from the civilians in the administration and the political side, we see a lot of flowery language, a lot of we're blasting them to kingdom come. We've done this. We've ruined them. Obliteration. But what I think the nation expects of its highest military brass is absolutely apolitical behavior, balls and strikes. This is what our mission is. These are our objectives. Here's how we're doing. And then everything, and it's just got to be that way. And it may be stiff-necked. Where's the personality? I want to hear MacArthur and LeMay. I think it's better for the nation if they just see just the facts, ma'am, kind of Jack Webb behavior, like Dragnet in the days of old. And I think that's for the good of the nation. We certainly have political folks who have the communications, let's call it flair, to put this thing into a little bit of color, and we don't need that out of our uniform.
I get that. I guess part of me, maybe I'm a little bit prejudiced because I have seen 4-star admirals, generals in that chair for the past 20 years talking about how great things were in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they weren't. And sometimes I could look at the language and I'm like, wait a second, these guys are deceptive. They're deceptive right now. And I worry that deception became a culture because I kind of felt like I was getting not spun, but I'm not blaming Cooper, but Anyway, you understand my awkwardness here, my challenge.
Oh, I absolutely do. And DC, let's be very clear, is a viper pit. It is a world of talking points and gotchas and traps. And when you are a 4-star admiral or a 4-star general that goes into that viper pit, you're a war fighter. You're not there to dazzle people with your ability to verbally joust them on the hill. Although you must have that set of capabilities on you, you need to be very careful, because what you don't want is to arm somebody with the ability to say, well, this general's politicized the entire thing. Because there are so many people against Trump at this point. If they could go pick apart Admiral Cooper and say Admiral Cooper lied to us or Raisin Payne lied to us, they're going to find that. They're going to take that. If this was a set of Obama generals, they could go up and you could watch their noses grow like Pinocchio and nobody's going to bat an eyelash. It's just a very different environment this time around. And we're having a lot of success. There's no 130,000 troops on the ground, no blank check. And yet they're never going to produce a nuclear weapon. The regime is going to go away. The straits will be open. We'll get the oil saved. And this is the right track. This is what we owe our grandkids.
China. President Trump is there. Looks like he's having a great time. Public niceties. I can't tell what's going on behind the scenes. Maybe we'll know more later. What are you hearing?
He met with, this is very interesting. He had a separate meeting. It was a tour to the Tea Garden of the Heavens, something close to where Xi Jinping comes from, and met with his very, very well-spoken English-speaking daughter. And it was a private meeting. And now my eyebrows are going up going, interesting. So we came all the way to Beijing to have a private meeting with Xi Jinping's daughter? What kind of information was transpired? Every single time, Greg, you have seen President Trump effusively praise Xi Jinping. He is entering into Chinese Communist Party politics and smacking around the elders who have the long knives out for Xi Jinping. And in exchange for that type of support from the United States, I imagine we're getting somewhere with the things that we want from China.
Very interesting. Wow, about the daughter. Hey, and let's, he's not like Biden who, there's an amazing difference between Biden and, I don't know if I've ever played this for you, but take a listen here real quick, because President Trump can be tough on China, very tough on China. Cut one, please, cut one.
I have many people from China that I do business with. They laugh at us. They feel we're fools. They're getting away with absolute murder.
China's a great nation, and we should hope for the continued expansion.
I don't want to lose $300 billion a year to China when we can't afford to build schools for our children, when we can't afford to build highways, when we can't afford to build railways, when we can't afford to build bridges. I want money to be invested in jobs and in this country. I don't want to rebuild China.
A rising China is a positive development, not only for China, but for America and the world writ large.
It was China's fault. And China's going to pay a big price, what they've done to this country. China's going to pay a big price, what they've done to the world. This was China's fault. And just remember that.
554,064 American dead from COVID-19. A lot of families want to know how this happened, how it got here. Have you had a chance to speak to any of your international partners, any of President Xi, who I know you go way back with? Have you had a chance to ask him if these reports are true that China maybe misled the world at the beginning?
No, I have not had that conversation with President Xi. Thank you.
Wow. What do you make of that contrast, General Holt?
I have a few words on that. It's called 10% for the big guy. And here's the thing. President Trump, he rolled in a position of strength. We now have dibs on about 80, most of the world's choke points that relate to 80% of the oil and energy gas inputs into China, Malaccan Straits, all the way to Venezuela. Their economy is dead. They are fighting each other in Beijing. They are in tatters. And he shows up with the 30 wealthiest men, wealthiest business folks that we have. Who's got the bicep in those optics? The other part that's very interesting is every one of those billionaires that President Trump brought with him has in some way, fashion, or form had knives put into their backs business-wise from the Chinese Communist Party, whether it's stealing IP, running roughshod over factories, ignoring previous treaties. So what a good environment to sit down and have a nice talk about Chinese infiltration and espionage here in this country. so much more to come. But let's also remember President Trump and Xi Jinping share something in common. A great disdain for the central bankers, financialists, and the City of London crowd, where Lloyd's of London is the one that locked up the Straits in the first place, but with not issuing insurance wrappers. So it's not a regional thing. This is a global thing. And the two men are dancing in a way that I find most appealing. I think we're going to see some goodness out of this.
Wow. Well, we love it all. General Blaine Holt, you are amazing. At @the_irascible. And tell us a little bit about that company and where we can find it. I love it. I'm going to, you're publicly traded. We can get in on this. What's it all about?
Yeah, so Xeriant is a technology company. Xeriant is XERI. That's our symbol, XERIANT. And we're a diverse technology, everything from propulsion and new ways of getting at water systems for data centers. But we're leading with our first 4 products, and that's advanced building materials, fireproof, waterproof stuff for your house, safer, recycled. And we're going to kick the hell out of sheetrock. And and our certifications are coming up in the next 10 to 14 days. We've already got customers, and we're onloading first major capital so I can nail this all-star team to the wall, all of our scientists. And I thank you for letting me just brag on them because I'm so proud of this team. And for 5.5 years, we've just bootstrapped the crap out of this. And here we are. We're coming out on stage. It's just awesome.
Awesome. Congratulations. A success in military.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Gavin Newsom's former chief of staff just pled guilty to money laundering and tax fraud. Dana Williamson, Newsom's chief of staff from 2022 to 2024, appeared in court in Sacramento to plead guilty to counts of conspiracy to commit bank fraud, wire fraud, subscribing to a false tax return, and making false statements. She's accused of being the ringleader for a plan to siphon $225,000 from a dormant campaign belonging to Javier Becerra, who is running for governor right now. How about that? Right there in the governor's executive circle. That is pretty wild. More on that maybe a little bit later tonight. Gavin Newsom, anyway, never going to be the nominee, all right? Ignore any poll that says that guy has a shot. It's not true. I am personally stopping his campaign. I can do it with the information that I have and that I will be releasing in an organized format within the next week or so. Barbara, hello.
Hello. Hi, Greg. I'm looking forward in the midst of all of this intense politics going on. I'm looking forward to this Sunday when I hope we can all pay attention to the celebration on the National Mall in Washington of the National Day of Prayer, rededicating America to one nation under God. And I love that President Trump is echoing George Washington and Benjamin Franklin by saying that we must, as Americans, feel the warmest gratitude toward the great author of the universe, whose divine interposition was so frequently manifested during the Revolution. And Benjamin Franklin said, if a sparrow cannot fall to the ground without his notice, is it possible that an empire can rise without his aid? And President Trump, and we all need to pray for him, God bless him, President Trump is saying, we must have morals and religion front and center in this country if we're going to survive and thrive for the next 250 years. So that celebration will be marvelous. It'll be all over television, and they'll have every kind of celebration. You can imagine what President Trump would have put together for this important day.
Well, that's nice. I thought we just had a National Day of Prayer. Didn't we have something along those lines?
Every year we have a National Day of Prayer. Every year in Washington, D.C., we also have a National Communion Prayer Breakfast. This is something special in keeping with the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, celebrating the phrase, one nation under God, to which our country is dedicated. Yeah. It was added in 1954 to the Pledge of Allegiance by President Eisenhower.
Yeah.
And one of the important reasons it was added, that hits home now, it was added to encourage patriotism and teach our foreign-born Americans about the primacy of God in the success of our nation.
I love it. Now listen to me. Send me some of this material, all right? Lately I've been asking, and sometimes it gets lost in the mail, shall we say?
It'll be in your text.
All right. Thank you very much. Very wise, very interesting, and the correlation between right now and the Revolutionary War. Did you see the guy who threw the big rock at the seal in Hawaii? Yeah, they arrested him and they charged him with cruelty to animals or something like that. There was a nice seal floating on by, swimming on by, and he took a big rock and threw it at the seal. That's not nice, but you know what also wasn't nice? They beat the guy up who threw the rock. And I can see being upset with him. I can't see beating him up. And some guy beat him up and beat him up and beat him up. And you know what Hawaii just did? They gave the guy who beat him up a big trophy. They recognized him as an ambassador of Hawaii for doing good things for Hawaii and the SEALs. Well, his claim to fame is he beat up the guy who threw the rock. And, you know, it wasn't just, he beat him up. And I notice now when fights start, people don't let up. Nobody breaks up the fight anymore. And these guys don't seem to stop punching until it's sometimes way too late. So that's, you know what that is? That's the Democrats literally encouraging violence. And that's what they do. Sorry about the phone calls. To be continued. I'll see you later.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
77 WABC and Bergen Newbridge Medical Center honor the life of legendary broadcaster and our friend, Ernie Anastas.
Hi, it's Ernie Anastas. You know, your thoughts can affect how you feel. Bergen Newbridge Medical Center is the largest hospital in New Jersey, providing comprehensive, equitable, compassionate, and high-quality emergency inpatient and outpatient medical care, plus mental health services and substance use disorder treatment. The Bergen Newbridge team can address your total health needs in one convenient location. Call 201-225-7130 for an appointment or newbridgehealth.org.